Hello, my name is Dennis Terry, and as a preface to this video, I would like to say that I have literally known hundreds of Masons throughout my lifetime, including my dad, who was a 32nd degree Mason for well over 50 years. And the majority of these men are wonderful, honest, and God-fearing, loving men. I do not believe in any way whatsoever that these men are evil, no more than anyone else in the world. They do a lot for our communities and society as a whole, and for people with special needs. They certainly are not Satan worshipers and are not plotting to take over the world. However, Freemasonry itself does include a lot of occultism, witchcraft, and pays homage to a lot of pagan gods and goddesses. Having said that, the vast majority of Masons are completely unaware of the occult connection and would be greatly dismayed to know of this. As I said, I do not hate Freemasons in any way and have spent a lot of my time growing up helping my dad with different things around the lodge, and it was just a way of life for us. I won't go into a lot of detail about how I know these things, except I used to work with a ministry called the Christian Connection, and I was a ritual investigator. And I ministered to Satanists, witches, ancients, alchemists, and necromancers, and different flavors of New Age witchcraft practitioners. I learned a lot about their religion, and I would always tell them that I wanted to tell them about my Jesus. And they'd always smile and say, "Hey, that's cool, I can handle that." So I learned a lot about their religion this way, and this is how I acquire the majority of my knowledge on the occult. As I have studied Masonry from Masonic materials, I was shocked to find a lot of occultism in their literature and books that the average Mason would read right over without knowing what they were reading. I give you my word that this is solid and true to the best of my knowledge, and if I find something that I'm not sure about, I will certainly say so. Let the video begin. Freemasonry. Nevertheless, nothing is more common than to encounter Freemasons who are in utter darkness as to everything that relates to Freemasonry. They are ignorant of its history. They do not know whether it goes back to remote ages for its origins. This is by Masonic historian Albert Mackey, 33rd degree Mason. A Mason would probably be offended if I told people about a religious organization that has 3 degrees. On initiation, it requires the initiates to remove all secular clothing and metal. The initiate is hoodwinked or blindfolded and has a tow cable placed on their body or around their neck as they are led around the room. That person has a sharp instrument placed against their naked left breast. The organization is also called the Craft and uses terms like "so mote it be" and Jesus is omitted from their meetings. As they kneel at an altar, the leader leads them as they swear a bloody death oath. Even though this is what goes on in a Masonic lodge, I'm talking about a different organization. Witchcraft, which is a branch of witchcraft. Initiation into witchcraft parallels that of Freemasonry. This includes the initiate is hoodwinked and has a witch's cord or a tow cable tied to their body. Everything on the previous page happens here. Witchcraft has 3 degrees, is called the Craft, uses the term "so mote it be," and Jesus is omitted from their rituals. She, the witch, as does a Mason, will kneel inside of a pentagram and take a blood oath. This 3rd degree master witch is Alex Sanders, known in England as the King of the Witches. Alex Sanders was a 33rd degree Mason. The Pentalpha Lodge. The members have no idea what this name means. I stopped and went in and talked to some of the members there. All they know is there are only 2 lodges in the world with this name, this particular lodge and one in England. What does this mean and where did this name come from? Pentalpha. Penta means 5, alpha is A, the first letter of the alphabet. An occult symbol made up of 5 interlocking A's. Due to the geometric design and fit, it is thought to have magical powers. Because it can be drawn in one continuous unbroken line, it is used in the occult as a gate to conjure up spirits and cast spells. Not saying that Masons do this, but there's a correlation there for using pentalpha in both organizations. The five-pointed star inside of a circle is called a pentagram or a pentacle and is a sign of witchcraft. It can also be found in the center of the Masonic temple. It is known as a blazing star. In witchcraft and Satanism, it is drawn on the floor and is usually 9 feet in diameter. The 5 points signify the 5 elements: earth, wind, fire, water, and spirit. If the point is pointing downward, it is a sign of Satanism. It looks suspiciously like the Eastern Star symbol. Could there possibly be a correlation there? Okay, to be a Mason, you are required to believe in a God or a supreme being. Not the God, but a God. If you believe Jehovah is God, you can be a Mason. If you believe that Buddha is God, you can be a Mason. If you believe that Allah is God, you can be a Mason. If you believe that Satan is God, you can be a Mason. It doesn't matter who or what you believe God to be, as long as you believe in a God or a supreme being. This is the Supreme Mother Temple of the Scottish Rite in Washington, D.C. I've made 2 or 3 trips to D.C. to tour this building, as well as to study in their library on 2 or 3 different occasions, and was amazed how many occult volumes I found in the library itself. The gentleman that took me on tour of this facility was a 33rd degree Jewish Mason. His name was Mr. George Enders. I don't know why I remember that name, but he took me into rooms that nobody can go into while there's meetings going on. But the building was just incredible. The tour was great. The tour guide was a wonderful gentleman and answered all of my questions. It was just he and myself. And during this time, we're walking down the hall, and I already knew the answer to the question, but I said, Mr. Enders, let me ask you a question. I said, to be a Mason, you have to believe in a supreme being. He said, that's correct. I said, if you believe in God, the Jewish God or the Christian God, you can be a Mason. He said, yes. I said, if you believe that Allah is God, you can also be a Mason. He said, yes, that's correct. And I looked at him and I said, since a Satanist believes in Satan and believes him to be a supreme being, can a Satanist become a Mason? And he looked me straight in the eyes and without hesitation. He said, if he believes in a supreme being, yes, a Satanist too can be a Mason. I was astounded that by his honesty and him actually verbalizing that. I was impressed and proud of him, but I was still shocked and very surprised that he would say something like that. But anyway, I have done a lot of study there, and wow, it was quite an experience. These 2 statues, Mr. Enders told me that one was Isis and one was Osiris. Now, I have not been able to verify that. I have some doubts about it. One reason is because they looked alike, and another reason, neither one of them had the symbol of Isis, which is kind of like a U. It's traditionally the shape of Osiris's chair. I would like to tell just a little bit about Isis and Osiris. Whether these 2 statues at the temple are of Osiris and Isis, that makes no difference because they're both vital parts of Masonry. Osiris is known as the sun god, or Baal, as spoke about in the Bible. And yes, he is a very important part of Freemasonry. Then we have Isis, who was the sister of Osiris as well as the wife of Osiris. She is also the goddess of witchcraft and is known as the goddess with 10,000 names. To name a few, she is known as the Great Goddess, the Moon Goddess, Isis, Gaia, Venus, Aphrodite, Papa, Diana, the Maiden, the Crone, and the Hag, and Mother Earth. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a website for the Daughters of the Nile. This is the Isis Temple number 41, wherever it's located. It has the address on there. And then on the right-hand side, The Daughters of Isis is a Masonic order for the ladies, like the Order of the Eastern Star, which has a lot of problems of its own. But this one, the Daughters of Isis, you'll see U-shaped insignia or a symbol for Isis. And above it, it says Venus. That is one of the names that she's known by. It gets a lot deeper and a lot worse than this. But still, we have pagan gods and goddesses in Freemasonry. And why are these there? Maybe we can figure it out. Let's wait and see. I took a picture of one of the pages in the book Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. And this is what Mr. Pike has to say about Masonry. He said, Masonry is a search after light. That search leads us directly back, as you see, to the Kabbalah. And then it goes on to talk about different doctrines, the Hermetic philosophers, the alchemists, and the anti-papal thinkers of the Middle East, and Emanuel Swedenborg. Pike said that Masonry leads us directly back to the Kabbalah. Most God-fearing Masons have no idea what the Kabbalah is. If a Mason reads this, he would probably say, I don't know what the Kabbalah is, but if Masonry leads back to it, it must be good. Do you know what it is? And here's a picture of a book called Simplified Magic, A Beginner's Guide to the New Age Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is a Jewish mystical or occultic belief system. It is the basis upon which all modern-day witchcraft and New Age religions are based. It can be spelled in various ways as listed. Most serious Satanists study the Kabbalah. Freemasonry and the Kabbalah. All truly dogmatic religions have issued from the Kabbalah and returned to it. Everything scientific and grand in the religious streams of all the Illuminati, Jacob, I can't pronounce his last name, sorry, Swedenborg, St. Martin, and others is barred from the Kabbalah. All the Masonic associations owe to it their secrets and their symbols. The Kabbalah alone consecrates the alliance of the universal reason and the divine word. That was a quote by Albert Pike. Morals and Dogma lists 2 pages of references to the Kabbalah in the index, but refers to it a multitude of times. The first exposure I personally had with the Kabbalah was with a Satanist in the emergency room where I worked. He was trying to commit suicide and had taken an overdose of medication. And by the time we got him to the emergency room, it was too late to do anything for him. So we had him in the bed, and we were just giving comfort measures. And I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to him and witness to him and talk to him about his occultism, his Satanism. And he had a big tattoo that covered his whole chest of the Kabbalistic tree of life. And that's when I started learning about the Kabbalah. Anton LaVey was a Kabbalist. Who is he? Anton LaVey was a high priest of the Satanic Church in San Francisco. He was the author of the Satanic Bible, and he had this to say about Masonry. Masonic orders have contained the most influential man in many governments, and virtually every occult order has many Masonic roots. Some of the cult and occultic organizations related to Freemasonry are the Illuminati, the Wiccan Witchcraft, Ordo Templi Orientis, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It was a satanic group started by 3 Masons, and one of those men was Aleister Crowley. He was a painter, a poet, a philosopher, master Satanist of this century, or now the 20th century, last century, founder of Thelema, claimed to be the great beast 666, member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and the Ordo Templi Orientis, labeled by the British press as the most wicked man alive. So wicked he was kicked out of England. Also, he had sacrificed his own son in a satanic ritual. Crowley was a 33rd degree Mason. Then there's a Theosophical Society that was started by a female Mason. And yes, there have been some female Masons in the past, but that is very rare. Also, Mormonism. Here we have a picture of Baphomet. A lot of people say Baphomet, like it's spelled, but it's actually pronounced Baphomet. Also known as the Goat of Mendez or Satan. This picture was drawn by 33rd degree Mason Eliphas Levi. as signed on the base. The Knights Templar were put to death for supposedly breaking their vow of poverty, engaging in homosexual activity, and for worshiping the horn god Baphomet. The last Templar general to be burned to death was General Jacques de Molay. The Masons named their young men's club after him, the Order of the de Molay, who was a suspected homosexual Satanist. Good job, guys. I believe that I would have put a little bit more thought into this before choosing a name for my young men's club. Baphomet, the same as Satan or Lucifer or Set, and I'll be talking more about him. Lucifer means light bearer, and isn't that what Masonry is supposed to bring? Is there a connection? The torch between the horns brings light or illumination. This is a very important quote indeed. This came from the book Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. Masons are intentionally misled by their superiors. The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. Part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he should understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine that he understands them. Their true explication, to explain in detail, is reserved for the adepts, the princes of Masonry. The whole body of the royal and sacerdotal art, that means the arts belonging to the princes of Masonry, was hidden so carefully centuries since in the high degrees as that it is even yet impossible to solve many of the enigmas which they contain. Enigmas means one that is puzzling and capable of being interpreted in more than one way. It is well enough for the masses of those called Masons to imagine that all is contained in the blue degrees, and whoever attempts to undeceive them will labor in vain. That is Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma, page 819. This is the McCoy catalog. I picked this up while I was at the Supreme Mother Temple, and it is the official Masonic supply house. Anything you need for your Masonic order or your branch of Masonry, this is the go-to book for ordering your supplies. Once again, here's the Daughters of Isis fez. You can see the emblem or the symbol of Isis, as well as a picture of her inside the symbol. Who knew that you could get witchcraft items from the Masonic catalog? Not only can you buy your fez for Isis, you can also order books. I looked at some of these books, and here's Manly P. Hall's literary masterpiece, The Encyclopedia of Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Symbols Philosophy. Wow, every bit of that's occultic. Every bit of it. It talks about Atlantis and the gods of antiquity, life and writings of Thoth, Hermes, forgive me, I can't pronounce that word, initiation of the pyramid, the virgin of the world, sun, and this is Osiris, sun, the universal deity, zodiac and its signs, Bimbine table of Isis, wonders of antiquity, the life and philosophy of Pythagoras, Pythagorean mathematics, Hermetic legends, stones, metals, and gems. Over here on the other side is another book, The Masonic Letter G. The Masonic Letter G explores the link between the Masonic degrees, rituals, and Kabbalistic tradition. Masonry cannot be appreciated or understood without the knowledge of the Kabbalistic tree of life and its insight into the nature of man and the cosmos. Wow. Underneath, we have Stonehenge, an ancient Masonic temple. That pretty much speaks for itself of the occultic nature of it. Wow, there's a lot more books. Now, to be fair, I don't know if they any longer carry these books. I know they do some of them, but this catalog is about 30 years old. So I don't know if they have got rid of a lot of this stuff or what. And also, all this stuff is public knowledge. This is not any of the secret stuff that's being taught. Here are a couple of pictures that I'm throwing in just for the heck of it. This is a picture that I found by accident. It's called Magic Mirror. This is attributed to Saint Germain. He was a Freemason and the most prominent occultist of his day. This is a picture of a man scrying and a woman apparently hitting him with a whip or a stick. Scrying is the occultic means of forecasting the future, one of the means of forecasting the future by staring into water and being able to get premonitions or visions of looking into the future. I thought this was interesting that this guy was a Mason and the prominent occultist, most prominent occultist of his day. Riding the goat is a popular phrase in Freemasonry. It's kind of a joke among Masons, but where does it get its roots? I think that it's interesting that Masons and witchcraft also have this in common. Is it just a coincidence, or is there a connection between the two? Of that, I'm not sure, but still I find it very interesting that the two have this in common as well. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that you found it informative, and I hope to have a part 2 sometime in the near future. Take care.